football news. Welcome to the Gold and Black Radio pregame show as we get you set for Saturday's kickoff. Now here's your host, Kyle Charters.
The Boilermakers try to bounce back in Week 2, although not in an easy place to play as they travel to take on Virginia Tech in Blacksburg. A full preview of the game on the Gold and Black Radio pregame podcast. Kyle Charters here with Tom Dienhart, Brian Newbert, and Alan Karpick. It's Purdue at Va-Tech at noon on Saturday. All right, Tom, the Boilermakers hit the road to Virginia Tech to take on the Hokies for Game 2. Purdue, of course, coming off a loss in Week 1. I feel like sort of the message this week a little bit has been, at least in some respects, to stay the course here. No real reason to hit the panic button for Purdue at this point, but certainly a lot of things to clean up from the Week 1 loss.
Yeah, I think, Kyle, we all can agree at the top of the to-do list is getting better on third downs on both sides of the ball, right? They couldn't get off the field. Fresno State converted 11-17 third down, 65%. Conversely, Purdue's offense, Kyle, could not stay on the field. They were just 2 of 11 on third downs, 18% conversion rate. And that was a big reason why, obviously, you saw that huge discrepancy in plays run by both teams. I think it was something like 82 for Fresno State and 60 for Purdue. Boilermakers lost by 5 points. So, yeah, they got to get better on third downs. And how about the short yardage situation, right? I mean, you can cover football a long time, and it seems like getting that 3rd and 1, that 4th and 1, it's always a struggle for Purdue to get real physical. And, Kyle, we saw it rear its ugly head once again. If Mock could be 4th and goal with the 1 yard line, get stuffed, no touchdown. And obviously, if you're able to convert that, Kyle, you probably win the game. So, third down, short yardage, rushing, those are 2 things I certainly am going to be looking for this weekend in Blacksburg.
Yeah, sometimes the game is very simple. At least it looks very simple. Those third downs are just glaring on both sides. If you can't stop it, you can't convert them. It's going to be difficult to win football games. There's no doubt about that. What do you think Purdue does differently this week to be able to, A, convert on offense, B, get some stops on defense?
I think there's no way you can suddenly magically get more physical on the offensive line during the season. It is what it is, right?
Yeah.
So you have to get a little, I don't know if cute's the right word, a little inventive. I think Hudson Card needs to be a little bit more involved. I think more RPOs maybe where he pulls it out and keeps it. Stuff like that would help. Maybe trying to involve the receivers more with jet sweeps, get the ball to guys like Deion Burks, and just flat out hand the ball off more to Devin Mockabee and let him do his stuff, Kyle. He never really got lathered up in the first half. I know he had the early fumble. I think they're trying to play too many running backs. Ride Devin Mockabee, for crying out loud. He's a cut above and he's special, and you got to use your special players. Purdue's got a handful of special players. Mockabee, Burks, Garrett Miller, and Hudson Card on offense. Those guys have to be special if Purdue's going to win. So just give the ball to Mockabee, and I think what we saw in the second half, Kyle, looked pretty good to me, didn't it to you? I mean, he ripped off about 60 yards rushing in the second half. He just has a knack. I can't explain it. He just knows how to get yards. So, again, I think that could be one solution, too, is just feeding him more often.
Yeah, I like that game plan. I'll add in there, throw in Tyrone Tracy on some specialty stuff, just to get him a few touches per game. I think that's a good look too. But yeah, I mean, you got to get Devin Mockabee the ball, and to give him an opportunity, outside a little bit too. I mean, get it to him in a little bit of space, because when he gets space, which he didn't have a whole lot of, but when he does, he can really move.
Okay, Kyle, talk a little bit about your thoughts, though, because we talked off air and days after the game about just the RPO game and maybe ways to attack the edge, and how you would like to see Hudson Card involved in the ground game.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some chances there. I think for him to keep the ball, and get outside the tackles a little bit. I was surprised, Tom, that we did not see that more often in game one than what we did. It seemed like there was probably that I can recall 2 significant runs for Hudson Card. I don't know what the stats bear out, but a couple times there, it felt like maybe he had an opportunity to keep that ball and get to the corner and maybe gain some yardage. He didn't take those chances.
Yeah, he had 6 carries for 29 yards. I think if memory serves me right, Kyle, almost all those runs weren't. I mean, they weren't called runs. Most of them were scrambles and being improvising. So, again, I know you don't want to expose your quarterback taking a lot of hits, but at some point, Kyle, you got to win football games, right? And Purdue let one get off the hook Saturday, and it was very painful. That was a game they probably should have won. Now they're 1 down, and that was again a winnable game. And here we go to Virginia Tech. They're a 3-point favorite now, and we know the rest of the schedule, Kyle. You got to seize these opportunities and just go with just ride like I said, ride the players that you got that are the most talented, and we'll see if Purdue's able to do that moving forward here.
Yeah. Yeah, that line's been all over the place, hasn't it? I mean, my gosh, this week from starting out, at least what I saw, maybe Virginia Tech -1 to Purdue -2.5 to now, perhaps Virginia Tech getting the home 3.
That's what I heard today. Somebody told me they were giving 3 today.
Yeah. So Ryan Walters, first effort on the defense at Purdue, doesn't look exactly like he wanted. I would imagine. What does Purdue do differently here to try to shore some things up, especially in the back half of the defense?
Yeah, I think they had 2 sacks and 4 TFLs. They got some pressure last week, but yeah, still too many open spots in that secondary that Fresno State receivers were able to sit down in. And they kept throwing to the same guy over and over again. Couldn't stop that kid. Yeah. So I'm not sure, Kyle. Maybe try to dial up some more heat here on this Virginia Tech quarterback. He's a bigger guy than the Fresno quarterback, but this quarterback likes to run a little bit more. And Virginia Tech may have even better receivers than Fresno State, so it's going to be a conundrum. I don't know. That secondary. The safeties are what they are. Cam Allen, Snoozy Kane, and Dylan Thieneman. Cornerbacks. There's 2 veterans. In Markevius Brown and Marquise Wilson. After that, Kyle, though, you got a junior college transfer and a true freshman. Yeah. So it's a real mishmash back there. I think they're always going to bleed some catches and some yards. You just have to hope that maybe you can get some heat, get some negative plays to try to keep offenses off balance.
Unfortunately for Purdue, injuries have been part of the storyline here in this opening of the season. Tom, Purdue, and I have not seen this, was in danger, it looked like, for a moment in the game on Saturday of needing to go to its 5th center. Now, it didn't have to do that, which is good. No offense to the 5th center, but anytime you get down to number 5, you're probably playing a guy that doesn't have a whole lot of experience. Now, it didn't happen, but it's illustrating that Purdue's got some injuries. I don't anticipate maybe Josh Kaltenberger. Perhaps he could be back on Saturday, which would certainly be a help in that at least it would give Purdue some more options on the interior of its offensive line. But as for everybody else, it's probably status quo on the injuries, right?
Yeah, we'll find out more here when they release the report on Saturday. But yeah, I think I expect Josh Kaltenberger to be back. So that should hopefully maybe help him, give him some stability at center. Musa was a game time decision last week. He ended up playing the entire game. He should be back. So they should be in a little bit better shape on the O-line. Garrett Miller, I still think that's probably leaning toward him not playing. I think he's doing all he can to get on the field, obviously, but it sounds like he's still maybe a game or 2 away. Paul Paferi, I do not expect to play at all. He's been dealing with some back issues. So they could be down to, playing a lot of playing a lot of Max Clare again. So, yeah, they're sort of dealing with a lot of the same injuries they had last week, too, that we have to try to navigate here in Blacksburg.
Yeah. Well, certainly a big game for Purdue, big one on the road. Much more to go here on the Golden Black Radio pregame podcast. We'll get a weather report for Blacksburg for Saturday. talk to Brian Newbert, get his perspective on week 2. Alan Karpick will be by as well. Let's take a break. We'll bring Tom back here in a few minutes, talk some matchups. We'll do that later on Gold and Black Radio.
Hello from News 18. I'm Storm Team 18 meteorologist David Seipel. The Boilermakers are heading to Blacksburg, Virginia to face Virginia Tech with a kickoff time around noon. Unfortunately, the weather is not looking great for Saturday's game. If you'll be down early, morning temperatures will be in the mid-60s around 8 in the morning with scattered chances for rain. By kickoff, chances for rain and a few storms will be possible. Lightning could be a factor that could cause delays. Around the end of the game, more storms will be likely in the middle of the afternoon. Winds should remain light out of the southeast 5 to 10 miles per hour with high temperatures during the game remaining in the low 70s. All in all, the Boilers should prepare for a soggy trip down to Virginia. From News 18, I'm Storm Team 18 meteorologist David Seipel. Boiler up, hammer down.
Designing and building since 1968, T&W has changed the way people think about construction. T&W's 3-stage approach to designing and building is unmatched throughout the construction industry. Learn more about T&W's people, passion, and projects at twdesignbuild.com.
Experience unparalleled comfort, service, and cuisine at the Whitaker Inn. This Midwestern oasis is perfect for a relaxing staycation or weekend getaway.
Escape from the ordinary at the Whitaker Inn.
It's time to break it down as we go in-depth about Purdue's opponent.
Hey, we're really pleased right now to be joined by Damian Sordelet, who covers Virginia Tech for the Roanoke Times. Thank you, Damian, for giving us some of your time. And real quick, just kind of give us an idea what to expect from the Virginia Tech offense on Saturday.
Yeah, Virginia Tech's offense looked remarkably better than it did all of last season. When you look at the fact that the Hokies now have some established playmakers, specifically at wide receiver. I saw this against Old Dominion, the ability to go over the top with Allie Jennings, Jalen Lane, Daquan Felton. That's something Tech lacked last season. Caleb Smith, who later transferred to Notre Dame after last season and medically retired, was really the only option the Hokies had. So they're able to spread the ball around, go big plays. Run game didn't get established much against the Monarchs, but I have a feeling they'll try to get Bashal Tootin, Malachi Thomas more involved in the run game to try to loosen up the Purdue defense to try to get those big shots over the top.
Kind of give us a sense of what to expect from that Hokie defense.
They're more formidable than they were last year. And it all starts with Florida transfer Antoine Powell-Ryland off the edge. He's a guy that they brought in who can win one-on-one battles. And that's something they didn't have last season. So with his ability to win one-on-one battles off the edge, he had 2 sacks against Old Dominion. That opens up opportunities for the rest of their defense. And then with that pressure, it creates turnover opportunities. Hokies forced 3 fumbles, recovered 2, also got an interception. That's a marked improvement over last season when they had 9 takeaways all of last year. Get 3 in the first game. That's something that they're going to try to hopefully duplicate against the Boilermakers.
Okay, Damian, give us a sense of how you see this game unfolding once it kicks off at high noon Eastern time on Saturday.
Yeah, I have a feeling it's going to be probably similar to the Fresno game for Purdue fans because both teams do like to throw the ball, spread things out. It should be an entertaining game. I know for Purdue fans, there's probably a few plays they want back to have a win over Fresno and feel a little bit more confident going into this week's game. But I do see it being in the 30s, maybe even low 40s to see how this game plays out, and should be a fun atmosphere for a game that's kicked off at, like you said, at high noon, and temperatures will be, I think, a little bit cooler than they were this past weekend in Virginia, but should be a great environment.
Ought to be good. Look forward to it. Purdue's going to try to avoid an 0-2 start as it plays its first game ever in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Of course, this is a return trip. The Hokies were in West Lafayette in 2015. So, Damian, look forward to the ball game, and we appreciate you dropping some Hokie knowledge on us today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me on.
On the far end of Main Street in downtown Lafayette, you'll find East End Grill, industrial and classic. The restaurant is built like a steakhouse, but handles like a bistro. East End Grill's menu includes creative starters, simple chopped salads, burgers, fresh fish, and steaks, and the signature shrimp and grits. The staff prepares every item from scratch and emphasizes simple meals that incorporate fresh, local, and seasonal ingredients. A warm and inviting dining room features a cozy bar that includes a great selection of craft beer, inspired cocktails, and a robust and expanding wine list. Whatever your entertainment needs are, a cocktail at the bar, dinner with family, or a special event in the private dining room, the energized and attentive staff is here for you. East End Grill in downtown Lafayette, welcome to our table. When it comes to land sales, it pays to have experts in your corner. AcrePro Midwest Farm Group is your local farmland specialist. With decades of experience in Indiana agriculture, no one knows the market better. Whether you're doing a 1031 exchange or simply buying and selling farmland, your local AcrePro agent will walk the land with you and ensure the deal is done right. Visit acrepro.com or call 765-775-6502 and talk to your local land expert today. Again, 765-775-6502.
At Purdue Federal Credit Union, it's about a relationship. A relationship that goes where you go, wherever you are in life. A relationship that's committed to free financial wellness resources, lower fees, and innovative digital banking solutions. Because we believe in people helping people. Let's build your financial future together. Purdue Federal Credit Union, your trusted financial partner for life. Federally insured by NCUA.
This is the Golden Black Radio pregame show, the most in-depth guide to Saturday's game you'll find, featuring the staff of Golden Black.
Let's bring in Brian Newber to get his perspective on the Boilermakers as Purdue heads to week 2. Brian, the Boilermakers put up 35 points in week 1, but there still, I think, was a feeling that Purdue offensively, didn't really show its full hand. In fact, I don't know that it really, and I know you've written a lot about this week, so I'll sort of set you up here, but didn't really establish an identity for week 1 and leaves us feeling like, we haven't yet seen that for Purdue.
Well, yeah, what outside of Deion Burks making a bunch of big plays, what did Purdue fall back on against Fresno State? What could they go to that they figured they could execute whenever they needed to execute it to just move the change, just stay on the field offensively? I think that's where, improvement from week 1 to week 2 has to lie, and improvement from week 1 to week 11. I think, you have to have a core group of calls that you can kind of fall back on in almost any situation that sometimes the defense knows it's coming, but they still have to stop it.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. And I just didn't see a whole lot of signs of that against Fresno State. Now, in Purdue's defense, they didn't have the ball a whole lot against Fresno State. So I'm not sure we saw everything they wanted to do. But, they ran that one RPO to Max Clare. They ran some read option stuff, but it's like they never got back to anything. They ran something once, and then they just never got back to it if it worked. And I think that's something where Purdue has to really get some bread and butter offensively here established and really figure out what they can fall back on offensively, where they can just keep their offense on the field.
Yeah.
That's not really the reason probably that they, didn't really convert as much on third down, although it would have been helpful, I'm sure, to have something really reliable to go to on third down. But I think it looked to me like an offense and an offensive play caller and an offensive cast of offensive personnel that was still really kind of settling in, and that's perfectly reasonable, for a first game under a new coaching staff.
Yeah, I think I can agree with that. What do you think this is probably an impossible question to answer, but what is it? What do you think Purdue needs to get to offensively that it can really rely on?
Quick passing game, easy completions, anything that can get the defense off balance a little bit, where you can run off of that. You can throw throw the ball downfield off of that, things like just that kind of basic sort of offense. I don't know if that makes any sense. Screen games, a variety of running plays, read option, RPO, whatever it might be, whatever they dedicate their practice time to. I don't know what it is because I don't go to practice. But whatever those bread and butter sorts of things can be for this team, they just need to get that established. They need to be consistent with it. And they just need to give defenses something to have to prepare for. I'm not saying, Fresno State didn't have to prepare for anything. I don't know what they could have prepared for, other than whatever Graham Harrell did at his past stops.
Yeah.
But you just need something you can rely on in most any situation. Every good offense has that, whether it's the running game, whether it's the quick passing game, whether it's tempo, whether it's whatever. That's what I'll be most interested to see against Virginia Tech is what Purdue really tries to get established early in the game, how much success they have with it, how much success they can have getting back to it, later in the game, and just how they can adjust to defenses' adjustments, how they can play off things, how they can give different looks, and maybe take some shots off of some things that they've conditioned the defense to expect to see.
Yeah, I know you've talked a lot about this, and I'm always curious watching this too, is whether coaches are setting something up for later in the game. And there were two plays, Brian, that I felt like they had to be setting something up, and then we just never saw the payoff. It was the two just sort of flare passes out, and I think both of them were incomplete, or at least one of them was incomplete. Then I think the receiver got blown up on the second one. Then I felt like, okay, they've done this twice. It was incomplete the first time, then got blown up the second time. They've got to fake this at some point and then drop a tight end 15 yards down the field over the top of the safety that's going to be drawn in to the receiver. And we just never saw that. I was sure they were setting that up at some point. And so that's the kind of stuff I like to see out of an offense. Like, even if something doesn't work, are you setting up for when you need a big play later in the game? And, of course, Purdue did need some big plays later in the game. I thought Purdue would go back to that, and it didn't, unfortunately.
Well, that's what I'm getting at is those two passes you're talking about. One was incomplete, one got blown up.
Yeah.
If you can consistently execute that play and that's 6 yards a pop, and you can do that 4 or 5 times through the course of the game, that then gives you the opportunity to run off of that to hit something down the field off of that. Now, in terms of slipping the tight end over the middle, I think it's important to remember that Purdue's on its third tight end. And I'm not sure how big the playbook is for the tight end position right now. It would be bigger, I'm quite certain, if Garrett Miller was out there. Yeah. But right now, you have a redshirt freshman out there who they tried to involve. That they did some stuff for Max Clare in terms of those drag routes and that one RPO play, things like that. But now that you've had this one game and you've seen what some people can do and you've seen what some people can't do, perhaps we see a very different looking offense this weekend at Virginia Tech. I was surprised Purdue they really only played 5 receivers. Yeah. Now that we're counting Tyrone Tracy as a running back, and only 3 of those guys played more than 4 snaps. And I think it would be probably a little bit conducive to having a bigger playbook if you had, maybe some more guys you could run in there and, stuff. But it'll be very interesting to see what we see from them offensively at Virginia Tech.
Yeah,
for sure.
Thanks, Brian.
Yep.
All right, back with more in a moment. This is Golden Black Radio.
What else is going on around the league? Let's take a look. It's the Big Ten Roundup.
All right, Al, let's take a glance around the Big Ten. 5 games on Saturday, excluding the one, of course, that Purdue will participate in against Virginia Tech. Let's start out with Coach Prime and his Colorado Buffaloes hosting Nebraska this weekend, noon kickoff. Colorado, which was a 3-touchdown underdog last week, but won at national runner-up TCU, is a field goal. It gets the home 3. as Deion Sanders will make his debut on the home field as the head coach of Colorado. What a story this is. Man, it's just speaking for me personally, he's such a flamboyant and loud player that it's been too easy, I think, to dismiss him as a head coach. But look, the record says what it is. He was great, and Colorado was great in the opener, and it appears to be the real deal. It'll be an interesting game against Nebraska.
It absolutely will be. You got to remember, TCU had 10 penalties, kind of botched that game, or we'd be talking a little bit differently had TCU gotten out of there with the win. But Coach Prime, you have to give him credit. You also have to give him credit for his son. I mean, he was off the chain at 510 yards passing. And conference can take you a long way. I think they'll get through that game against Nebraska at home just because Nebraska can't seem to get out of its own way most of the time. But you know what, Kyle? Colorado's going to lose a game this year. They're not going to win the national championship. That I'm going to make that bold statement right now, even though I don't believe.
Colorado made plays at the end of its victory against TCU. Nebraska did not again.
No.
It's new coach, same story. Pretty unbelievable.
Yeah,
all right, 3:30 kickoff. Number 2 Michigan will host UNLV. Michigan is a 38-point favorite, and this one the Wolverines didn't do much last week to make anybody think that they're not who we thought they were. Michigan is really good even without its coach, and I would suspect will be really good again on Saturday.
Yeah, I don't know if they covered last week, did they? But, I don't think it matters one bit whether Jim Harbaugh is there. I think Michigan will try to get some work.
Designing and building since 1968, TNW has changed the way people think about construction. TNW's three-stage approach to designing and building is unmatched throughout the construction industry. Learn more about TNW's people, passion, and projects at twdesignbuild.com.
Experience unparalleled comfort, service, and cuisine at the Whitaker Inn. This Midwestern oasis is perfect for a relaxing staycation or weekend getaway. Escape from the ordinary at the Whitaker Inn.
It seems like the Hawkeyes are favored by 3.5. If you are running for president, you will be in attendance apparently at this football game. The Hawkeyes, I don't know. What do you make after week 1 for Iowa?
They had a 36-yard touchdown pass, Kyle. And Cade McNamara and his quad that they've been talking about since the second week of August, he seems to be able to manage that. Iowa did not run the football very well. They've won 6 out of the last 7, but they lost last year to Iowa State in a slugfest. It just every year seems to be a 13-10 game. It just seems to be that Iowa wins it every year. So look for that to happen again. I guess, though it should be a. I don't know if it'll be an interesting game, but it should be a close game.
I could be. This could be fake news here, but we'll go with it anyway. Did I hear or read correctly that the touchdown pass on the opening drive by the Hawkeyes was the first ever touchdown pass on an opening drive in the Kirk Ferentz era? Is that possibly true?
That's possibly true. I don't know the answer to that. Did not read that little tidbit, but anything's possible. Though they've had some quarterbacks that have been, Drew Tate and some others have been pretty good under Ferentz, but and Cade McNamara is serviceable, but certainly a step up from where they were last year. But that's not saying much. I still think Iowa is going to win on its defense, and that's stating the obvious with just way the Hawkeyes play.
It sounds good, so we're going to go with it being true.
I think it's very true.
All right, 3:30 kickoff. UTEP at Northwestern. This, in a lot of instances, would be a who cares game, and really is. UTEP is 1-1. However, it's favored at Northwestern by a point. That is pretty unbelievable and telling of the Wildcats. Look, not only is Northwestern troubled by what occurred here over the last several years, really, but then came to light this offseason. But also, the Wildcats looked bad.
Yeah.
Dysfunctional on offense in particular in the loss at Rutgers. Just avoided the shutout with a late touchdown that didn't mean anything. But, man, Northwestern didn't look like it had a lot going on offense.
Well, I mean, they went through one of the worst scandals so far in the last, certainly on the Mount Rushmore, if there's such a thing, of the 21st century so far. Now, there have been other bad ones that we don't need to go into. But this is a team that was also 1-11 last year. So they weren't supposed to be very good this year anyway. We're supposed to struggle. And then you throw in a calamity like this whole program is dealing with. And I don't know. I just not sure I think UNLV will get them there, but I think the Wildcats are going to have a hard time winning the game this year.
Yeah. Primetime game on Saturday, 7:30 kickoff. At least locally, it'll be a different time out there on the West Coast. Washington State hosting number 19 Wisconsin. This will be going forward probably one of the most recurring Big Ten versus Pac-12 matchups because Washington State will be the only team left in the Pac-12.
That may be.
Yeah, that could be true. Wisconsin is a narrow favorite. I guess a 6-point favorite, nearly a touchdown at Washington State. So much for Air Raid and the Badgers. What was the final numbers? The Badgers still rushed for like 300 yards. Apparently out of the Air Raid, you can still run the football. And Luke Fickell certainly did that in his debut as the coach at Wisconsin.
Yeah, Tanner Mordecai did not have a great game. Certainly had a couple turnovers in that game. He better not do that again. This is where it all started to go south for Paul Chryst last year in that 17-14 loss to Wazoo in Madison. 3 turnovers, 11 penalties. This is a dangerous game for Wisconsin. Yes, they're a new team and a new coach and everything new, but they need to have a little bit more balance, especially because that's what they want to do as a football team, and that's what Luke Fickell, I think, says he wants to do. That may change if Tanner Mordecai becomes a game manager as opposed to a guy that can, Braylon Allen can do a lot of things and can cure a lot of problems that you have. But again, Wisconsin, this is an interesting game, and I wouldn't be shocked if Washington State doesn't. I think they're a 6-point dog in this one, but wouldn't be surprised if this one is another upset.
That's the Big Ten Roundup for Week 2.
Let's go back in time with a historical look. Here's Alan Karthik.
All right, Al, let's take a historical view at Purdue and Virginia Tech. Let's expand that out a little. The Boilermakers versus Power 5 teams on the road. I was at the one victory that the Boilermakers have had versus the Power 5 away from home since 2006?
Yeah. Well, since 2000, 2005 is the only one. Though that, of course, you were at that one too, the Arizona game.
That's
but
correct.
I think you're talking about the Missouri game in 2017, which was a shocker, really, if you think about it. 35-3, and Drew Lock was the quarterback, and you shut them down completely in that game. That was really one of the more surprising. If you go back and look at it in perspective, to go out there and win like that and win by 32 points on the road is pretty darn impressive against a future NFL quarterback who was awful that day, as I recall. He was much better the next year when Missouri came to Purdue and beat Purdue 40-37. But this is that was their lone win. They're 4-9, Kyle, against the Power 5 on the road since 2000. The other ones, like we said, that Arizona win in 2005. They beat Wake in 2003, the last win against an ACC team on the road. Of course, Notre Dame in 2004, the other victory. But they're few and far between.
You're not making me feel all that great here, Al. So you mentioned the last win versus an ACC team on the road was that victory against Wake. That was a good win also for Purdue.
Absolutely. Wake was ranked 20th in the country. Purdue was coming off that Bowling Green loss and really had some questions and had to struggle in that game. I can remember Sean Phillips and Stuart Schweigert making a couple of big stops at the end and Purdue getting out of there alive with with a close win, but against a good Wake team. Ended up they were ranked 20th when the Boilermakers beat them.
Yeah. This is Purdue's first game ever in Virginia.
That's unless they played some high school back in '06 that was there, but we don't think so. So this is the first one. They've obviously played Virginia, this UVA in West Lafayette. But they've never played them there. And of course, Virginia Tech came to West Lafayette in that highly memorable 2015 game. 51-24. There was two fumble returns for touchdowns in that game. Of course, Danny Witchicky's 90-yarder in that one, but still pretty forgettable game as Purdue just got absolutely crushed by a very pedestrian Virginia Tech team in that time. But yeah, first trip to the state of Virginia, first trip to Blacksburg, and I think that Enter Sandman will hopefully for Purdue they'll adjust to that. That's at least a 4-point swing right there. But it's going to be an interesting experience for a noon kick. But I think their fans are going to show. They had 65,000 there last week, so they like to get there for that event, and we'll see what happens.
Joining the long list of backup quarterbacks who have tormented Purdue, Virginia Tech, I think, started a backup quarter. I can't remember the guy's name that day. Joining the likes of Gary Godsey, Rocky Lombardi, Riker Fife.
I think they were down to their third team, but yeah, it was not even.
I think Purdue beat Riker Fife. I shouldn't include him in the list. I think
they did. Yes, in fact, Darrell Hazel beat Riker Fife, right? Yeah. 55-45 in that pitcher's duel when they almost shared 100 points. but they didn't, or we'd still be playing. So, yeah. So all right, sounds good, Kyle. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll be back with more here in a moment. This is Gold and Black Radio. On the far end of Main Street in downtown Lafayette, you'll find East End Grill, industrial and classic. The restaurant is built like a steakhouse, but handles like a bistro. East End Grill's menu includes creative starters, simple chopped salads, burgers, fresh fish, and steaks, and the signature shrimp and grits. The staff prepares every item from scratch and emphasizes simple meals that incorporate fresh, local, and seasonal ingredients. A warm and inviting dining room features a cozy bar that includes a great selection of craft beer, inspired cocktails, and a robust and expanding wine list. Whatever your entertainment needs are, a cocktail at the bar, dinner with family, or a special event in the private dining room, the energized and attentive staff is here for you. East End Grill in downtown Lafayette, welcome to our table. When it comes to land sales, it pays to have experts in your corner. AcrePro Midwest Farm Group is your local farmland specialist. With decades of experience in Indiana agriculture, no one knows the market better. Whether you're doing a 1031 exchange or simply buying and selling farmland, your local AcrePro agent will walk the land with you and ensure the deal is done right. Visit acrepro.com or call 765-775-6502 and talk to your local land expert today. Again, 765-775-6502.
At Purdue Federal Credit Union, it's about a relationship. A relationship that goes where you go, wherever you are in life. A relationship that's committed to free financial wellness resources, lower fees, and innovative digital banking solutions. Because we believe in people helping people. Let's build your financial future together. Purdue Federal Credit Union, your trusted financial partner for life. Federally insured by NCUA.
Broadcasting from Gold and Black World Headquarters, north of Purdue's campus, this is the Gold and Black Radio Pregame Show.
All right, Tom, let's talk some matchups between the Boilermakers and the Hokies. We've talked about it a lot. This is not the old Frank Beamer Virginia Tech squad. They've been through some things here recently. That's probably a good thing for Purdue. This, as we talked earlier, look at the lines. It's bounced around so much that you feel like it's basically a pick-em. So maybe an opportunity here for Purdue in sort of a makeup type game for the week one loss. But for the Boilermakers to be able to do that, I said this last week too. It seems to me you've got to be able to establish the run here early on. Maybe do some things to mix it up a little bit, because I don't think that what Purdue wanted to be able to do running between the tackles really was all that effective. I don't feel like Purdue really looked to get the ball outside in the ground game much. Perhaps we'll see a little bit of a change up on Saturday by the Boilermakers.
Yeah, you're right. It's going to be going to be a challenge. First, just with that environment, Kyle. Lane Stadium. We've heard so much about the Enter Sandman and the raucous environment. Even the Hokies hit the field, so the Boilers are going to have to deal with all that. And Tech won last week. They're 1-0. They're feeling good, and they're a program with a real sense of urgency right now. You talked about these aren't Frank Beamer's Hokies, and you remember when this is a proud program, a national contender almost every year, and they've really fallen off. So they're looking to get some mojo under their second-year coach, Brent Pry, who was the Penn State defensive coordinator before he got that job in Blacksburg. So two defensive coaches are going to be matching wits here. And offensively, their quarterback he began his career at Marshall. He's a bigger guy. He likes to run the ball. And they really struggled on offense last year. They didn't have many good receivers. Well, they've gone out and got some transfer receivers that they like a lot. Ollie Jennings and Jalen Lane are a couple of the big targets that they like to throw to. And a couple of good running backs as well. The guy to watch is Tootin. So they feel like they've got more weapons on offense now. They scored over 30 points last week, and I don't think they ever scored 30 points in one game last year. So they think they may have something on offense. This, of course, will be a big step up in competition for the Hokies playing the Big Ten team after they played ODU last weekend. So we'll really see how good that Virginia Tech offense is this week, I think.
Yeah. I'd like to see, even though I think Purdue did okay getting some pressure up front, I'd like to see it a little bit more consistently, especially on third downs when you're really relying on those guys to jostle the quarterback and not leave some of your DBs out there too long. To me, that would be one way to solve some of your issues in the back half if you could just land a couple more plays up front.
Yeah, they need their outside linebackers, the real strength of that defense, to play well. I talked about the guys on offense that have to be playmakers. I think we know the guys on defense that need to step up. We saw Kadrian Jenkins a little bit last week, Nick Scourton, and Corday Sidner. Those guys have to play big off that edge and get pressure like you were talking about to help ease some of the burden of those guys in the back end of the defense. So we'll see if those outside linebackers can step up or not.
All right, Tom, who you got on Saturday?
I went with Purdue. I know they're the dog, but I think they're going to find a way to eke this thing out. I think this game is going to mirror last weekend a heck of a lot, Kyle. I think it's going to be back and forth, several lead changes, and it's going to be another fourth quarter game. It may be a game where the last team with the ball wins or close to it. We saw Fresno score with 59 seconds to go last week to win this thing. And I think we could see a similar outcome this week where this thing comes down to the last part of the fourth quarter, and whoever's able to make some plays is going to be able to steal this victory, I think.
Yeah. Look, I know, Tom, that we focus on some of the negative things when a team loses, in this case when Purdue loses. There were some foundational things that I thought that Purdue did really well. I mean, they got some big plays offensively and on special teams.
Yeah.
They didn't commit a ton of turnovers, didn't commit a ton of penalties. All those things matter, and they even matter in a loss. So I think there was something to build on there. I think Purdue makes some improvements from week 1 to 2, and for that reason, I'm going to take Purdue on the road in the non-conference. I know, I understand that's not something that happens every day, but I think the Boilermakers can go east and get a victory. I'll take Purdue by a final somewhere in there, 33-27. It'll be close. It'll be close, and it'll be a coin flip, I think. Maybe even closer than those 6 points indicate. I'm talking like final couple minutes scoring type close. So we'll see. But I'll take the Boilermakers in a close one. Tom, thank you. Get better. Drink your orange juice on your flight over there to Virginia Tech.
I appreciate it, my friend. Take care, Kyle.
That'll do it for our podcast for this week. Thanks to our sponsors. As always, if you do like the podcast, please rate us 5 stars on your favorite podcast app. Leave us a comment as well. All right, that'll do it for our show. For Tom Dienhart, Brian Newbert, and Alan Karpik, I'm Kyle Charters. Thanks for listening. This is Gold Black Radio.